Please hear me when I say this. The power you buried to survive is the same power that builds what comes next. This isn't about chasing control. It's about remembering how to hold it without needing to dominate anything or anyone. Welcome back, beautiful ones. I'm Cindi, astrologer, mystic, and your guide through the stars. Now, my deep dives take us beneath prediction into power, purpose, and remembrance. So you don't just learn astrology, you live it. And oh boy, are you in for a treat today because I love talking about Pluto. Him and I, we're basically besties. Now, I know people get nervous when they hear his name, but I know Pluto well enough to know, I promise, Pluto is not here to destroy you. He's here to evolve you. The things that crumble under Pluto's gaze are the ones that can't hold your truth anymore. Everything that's real, your power, your purpose, your soul contracts, those only get stronger. Now, today, Pluto has stopped moving backwards right here. This is the sign for Pluto, and he is in Aquarius right here. So Pluto has stopped moving backwards. And the moment it stands still, which is right now, everything you discovered in the dark begins to shift towards form. Now, for months since May, we've been inside an underworld apprenticeship, pulled into silence, shadow, and surrender. That was all this summer and spring. But now, as Pluto stations direct at 1 degree Aquarius, that deeper inner work that you've been doing, that starts to build its outer architecture. Now, this isn't a loud transit. It's the low hum in your bones. I know you felt it. You might feel heavy, slowed down, uncertain, but underneath that stillness is a pulse. And that pulse is the sound of your power reorganizing itself. So, tonight, we'll go beneath the headlines and horoscopes and into what this moment really means: the end of excavation and the beginning of your creation. Because this week, the torch you carried through the fire of Aries becomes the forge of Aquarius. And what you build from that fire will define the years to come. So, who is Pluto? Pluto is the underworld architecture, the one who never destroys without blueprinting what must rise next. Remember that. In myth, Pluto is Hades, ruler of the unseen realms, god of regeneration. But that's only the surface story. Beneath it, which is the Pluto that I know, Pluto is the alchemist, the universal engineer who takes what has died and repurposes it for rebirth. Pluto's domain isn't just death, it's design. He governs the unseen mechanism of power, the way invisible forces shape visible reality. And now, after 15 years in Capricorn, dismantling old hierarchies and exposing control systems, Pluto is stepping into Aquarius, right? He's been in Aquarius lately, the sign of the collective, innovation, and liberation. When Pluto entered Aquarius earlier this year, the world felt the tremor. Technology reached thresholds no one could ignore. AI, global networks, new forms of shared consciousness. People began asking different questions. Who actually holds power now? And the other question, what does freedom mean when everything is connected? Aquarius isn't personal power. Aquarius is shared power. It's the electricity that moves through the grid of humanity itself. When Pluto inhabits Aquarius, it purifies that current, stripping away manipulation so that truth can circulate freely again. But that process begins underground. And since May of 2025, Pluto's retrograde through the first degree of Aquarius, right here, has been an initiation in surrender, because I know all of us have had to do that, forcing us to face where our ideals clash with our attachment. Now, every retrograde season asks, what needs to die so evolution can breathe? But this one asked, can you trust power that doesn't come from control? That's the question we've been living since spring. And now, as Pluto stations direct, we move from theorizing and being in our heads, theorizing empowerment, to actually embodying it. From burning to building, from being transformed to becoming the transformer. And now, beautiful ones, the forge begins to cool. What was molten starts to take shape. In the next breath, in the very moment Pluto stands still, everything you've unearthed begins to remember its structure. That's where we're headed next, into the still point, where power pauses, listens, and decides what it will become. So let's talk about the moment it stations, okay? The power you buried to survive is the one that builds what comes next. Now, beautiful ones, let's talk about what actually happens as Pluto stops in the sky. Now, for nearly 5 months since May of 2025, Pluto has been moving backwards through the first degree of Aquarius. Retrograde Pluto is excavation. It pulls the scaffolding away from everything false so you can see what's been corroding beneath the surface. Many of you have lived it in slow motion. I know I have. Friendships or alliances unraveling because the power dynamic was never equal. Communities splitting between authenticity and performance. Technology, politics, or social systems revealing the control loops you used to tolerate. Now, personally, it probably looked like delays, reversals, strange pauses, that sense of, why can't I move forward? Because Pluto retrograde wasn't about forward. It was about underworld work, the rewiring of power at the root. And while that was happening inside of you, the same was unfolding collectively. Leadership scandals, data breaches, institutions questioning who truly holds the key. All of it mirrored the same question in your chart. Where have I been giving my energy to systems that no longer deserve it? Now, as of October 13th, today, as I release this video, Pluto stands still at 1 degree Aquarius and turns direct. The pause you feel isn't hesitation, it's gravity. Every underworld realization of the past 5 months, it's going to begin to solidify into outer world form. Okay? Think of last week's Aries fire. The moment you finally said it, admitted it, or let the truth erupt, that was ignition. Now, Pluto's direct is the forge that hardens it into structure. The words you spoke in heat are now tested for endurance. The boundaries you set in pain are now refined into design. So, if life feels unusually still right now, don't mistake it for a pause. It's pressure. What was liquid fire inside you is compressing into crystal clarity. The silence you feel isn't absent. It's the hum of transformation, the sound of power remembering its shape. You may notice yourself wanting to rebuild instead of react. You may notice that you're wanting to collaborate instead of confront. That's the Aquarian signature arriving. Control gives way to conscious cooperation. Now, socially, this station reverberates through every collective system. So we're talking technology ethics, global networks, community leadership. New alliances form exactly where old hierarchies cracked during the retrograde. Pluto Direct is asking one question. Now that you've seen the truth, what will you build with it? The Aries torch became the light. Pluto now becomes the mold. What you claimed in courage begins to crystallize into lasting power. So, beautiful ones, take a breath. The excavation is over. The forge is lit. But before we rush to build, let's look back. Because every time Pluto turns direct, history shifts. The same transformation reshaping your life now once changed the entire world. And that's where we're headed next, to see what the past reveals about the power returning to us now. Okay, like I've said before, every time Pluto enters Aquarius, humanity rewrites the definition of power. So, beautiful ones, this isn't Pluto's first visit to Aquarius. The last time he crossed these degrees was in 1778 to 1798. And I'll put my Pluto playlist right here for you guys. Okay. So, a 20-year storm that cracked open empires and rewired civilization itself. So, back then, the age of revolutions, across continents, ordinary people began asking impossible questions like, who decided kings were divine? The other question was, why should inventions belong only to the elite? Another question, what if knowledge could be shared instead of guarded? This was the time where America declared independence. France overthrew a monarchy. The Industrial Revolution ignited. Electricity, steam, and printing presses multiplied voices faster than the rulers could silence them. Does this sound familiar? Pluto in Aquarius was the hum of power leaving palaces and moving into the hands of the collective. And now the pattern returns. Only this time, the revolution is digital, ethical, and energetic. So the questions that we're asking is, we're questioning algorithms instead of monarchs. We're revolting against exploitation hidden inside convenience. We're remembering that connection doesn't mean control. Artificial intelligence, social currency economic or economies, decentralization, grassroots innovation, these are the new printing presses of the consciousness. But Pluto never modernizes without moral testing. The same archetype that freed thought also birthed factories and inequity too. So now, once again, we stand at the precipice. Will power become technology's servant or technology's soul? Now, personally, you might feel this as a tug between independence and belonging, rebellion and responsibility. You're being asked to revolutionize your own architecture of power, to stop waiting for permission and start designing contribution. Because when Pluto turns direct in Aquarius, which is now, the collective mirror turns on. What each of us builds within becomes blueprint for the world without. Okay? The same universal current that once forged republics is now forging networks of consciousness. And just like then, the question remains, what will we do with the power once it's ours again? The past shows us the pattern, but the present, that's asking for practice. Because, beautiful one, remembering your power is only half the story. Learning to hold it is the art. So let's move into the alchemy together. The tools that help you contain, channel, and create with this new strength. Now, most of you know power without grounding burns, right? But power with presence, now that builds. So beautiful ones. Pluto Direct is a big energy, but not every transformation needs thunder to be real. The most powerful work happens in silence, where your will meets your breath and your choices turn into architecture. So these tools aren't about summoning more energy. The tools I'm going to give you, that's not what they're about. They're about holding it, shaping it, and making sure it supports your design instead of destabilizing it. So think of this as your forge work. I'm going to give you 3 practices to move from eruption to embodiment. Okay? So the first one, it's a steps to take or a ritual. Call it whatever you want. It's your belief system, right? Now, this is power containment. So Pluto's force can feel like a rush, like it's too much truth, too fast. And trust me, I felt this when I was younger. Too much truth, too fast. This ritual helps your system anchor it, okay? So what I want you to do is light a single candle, whatever color that is for you, okay? The symbol of the fire you reclaimed, okay? That's the energy, the intention that you're going to put in this candle. That's remember last week's fire that you claimed, right? Whatever that is for you. Then I want you to place both hands over your solar plexus, okay? And that's just above your belly, okay? And I want you to breathe in slowly through your nose. And as you're breathing in, I want you to imagine the flame drawing inward and gathering heat, but not spilling it, okay? And then after you do that, I want you to exhale softly. And you can say this aloud or you can say it in your head. My power is safe with me. And I want you to repeat this 3 times. Okay? So I want you to intend for that candle, that flame, is the symbol of the fire you reclaimed. And then I want you to place both hands over your solar plexus, which is right above your belly. And then I want you to breathe in slowly through your nose, imagining as you breathe in that the flame's drawing inward towards you and gathering heat, but it's not spilling it. It's just gathering it, okay? Then when you have that, I want you to exhale. And as you exhale, I want you to say, my power is safe with me. Do this 3 times, and you will feel a subtle shift. That edge of overwhelm softens into clarity. This is how fire becomes fuel. Okay. Number 2, this is a community collaboration, but we're going to do it through journaling. Okay. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is never a solo mission. You know that. That's Aquarius. It's about how power circulates. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to get your journal out, pen and paper, and I want you to write the names of if 3 people or communities, or they can be a combination of both, that feel aligned with your growth. So people that you know or communities that you're in that feel aligned with your growth. And next to each one of those, I want you to note think about it when you think about the person or the community. How do I contribute to this energy? And also, how do I receive from this energy, right? So what I want you to notice here is where it feels balanced and where it feels transactional or draining. Okay, so be honest with yourself about these people or these groups or organizations that you have around you or communities that you have around you, okay? Now, the goal isn't to judge. I don't need you to judge. The goal is to calibrate, okay? When you see the imbalance clearly on paper, you can begin to exchange energy consciously instead of unconsciously, okay? So this is how the collective transforms, one honest reflection at a time, okay? Now, number 3, let's do a little breath work for stability. Now, this is your nervous system reset. The simplest, most powerful grounding you can use anytime you feel pressure of change, okay? So when you're feeling that pressure, that anxiety, I want you to do this. I want you to inhale for a count of 4. I want you to hold for a count of 4. And then I want you to exhale for a count of 6. And then I want you to silently say, I am steady in transformation. And I want you to repeat this a couple of times. This breathing rhythm signals to your body that evolution isn't danger, it's destiny, that you're safe. Okay. The more often you do this, the easier it becomes to stay centered while everything is shifting around you. Okay. Okay, beautiful ones. These tools aren't about taming your power, they're about teaching it to stay. Okay. Because what Pluto refines isn't chaos, it's capacity. And as we close, let's step into the integration where power meets presence and the future begins to hum beneath your feet. Now, I'm pretty sure you know this. I'm just going to remind you. Power doesn't need permission. What it needs is your presence. Okay? So, beautiful ones. Pluto turning direct in Aquarius isn't a single moment, it's the hum beneath everything. The world doesn't change in one explosion of light. It changes because people like you, like me, like us, decide to hold their power differently. The excavation is done. That's what we were doing all summer. The forge is cooling right now. Okay? And now comes the shaping. So when you speak, I want you to speak as someone whose words can build worlds, because you can. When you create, I want you to create as someone who no longer needs an invitation, because you don't. When you connect, remember, equality isn't granted, it's embodied. The truth you faced during Pluto's retrograde, the silence you broke under Aries' moon, that wasn't the ending. That was ignition. This, my beautiful one, is embodiment. This is where power stops being theory and starts becoming design. So you might notice the stillness returning, not as emptiness, but as structure forming. Every breath is the universe testing how much truth you can hold without collapsing into old patterns. So here's your activation for the week. Each morning, before the noise begins, before you go check anything, I want you to just whisper to yourself, my power is remembered. My presence is enough. And then I want you to feel how the room responds to that frequency. That, my beautiful ones, is not imagination. That's calibration. Because when you're aligned with Pluto's direct motion, your energy carries weight. You walk differently, you speak differently, and you choose differently. And that presence ripples. It ripples out into the universe. It's how timelines shift without needing permission slips from the old world. All right, beautiful ones, let me leave you with this. This is the moment when fire becomes form. The world that once tried to manage your light can't contain you anymore. Not because you fought harder, but because you remembered you were never inside their walls to begin with. As Pluto steadies in Aquarius, remember, revolutions aren't always loud. Sometimes they sound like a single soul breathing differently. Carry that stillness forward. Let your presence rewrite the architecture of power around you. Because you're not waiting for the future. You're building it right now, one conscious choice at a time. And next week, we'll walk further into the design of the new forecast that shift timelines, where Mars meets Jupiter and Saturn, and courage meets expansion and responsibility. But until then, beautiful ones, keep your heart steady, your energy grounded, and your power remembered. And if you don't remember anything else, remember this: the stars are not just above you, they are within you always.